I love the transition jokes. Okay, so before we can continue, I want to touch upon a topic. The word programmer. I don't think it's being used enough anymore. But when I was young, everybody was a programmer, right? Anybody who knew computers, oh, you're a programmer. All of a sudden, that word is a developer now. Is there a reason behind that? Is there? I mean, I'm not a native English speaker, but is there a reason we switched from programmers to developers? So
I'd love to hear Chat's opinions on that one because
yeah,
I've got no idea.
yeah, chat.
And I
Do
feel
you?
like the words we use have changed too, since I've
Yes.
joined tech, and that's a smaller window than that. So
Yeah, absolutely. Now, yeah, the chat here on Twitch. Do tell us. Do you use the word programmer for a developer, or have you completely dropped off the word programmer? Because when I was young, people used to call me a programmer, right? Like, even though I was not a programmer or a developer, because I knew computers, it's like, oh, he's a programmer, of course, right? Okay. So Brooke and Ricardo says here it's more creative. A developer feels more creative. Fair, fair. I like it. I like it. I get that. I get that. The thing is, like in my language, we don't have a word for developer, right? We would basically use programmer as just like or we would use the English version of that. But yeah,
it's interesting too, because there's also the divergence of more engineer, actually, as I pull my shirt up, showing up
right.
in everywhere. And I know in Canada, you can't actually call yourself an engineer unless you've got specific certifications, right? So it's interesting to see these kind of changes in the language that we use around what we do.
Yeah. I mean, Jackie, you can call yourself whatever you want. So just so you know, I call myself an engineer, even though I'm not technically. So there we go. Awesome. So, oh yeah, the other word from 15 to 20 years ago, which Kirk says is it was a coder. Yeah, I think a coder is a very odd term. I think a coder sounds like. It sounds like somebody young would call you, oh, he's a coder. He's a hardcore coder. So, yeah. But as Brooke said, a computer person, right? Yeah.
What about Tupperware magician?
Tupperware magician. Okay, okay. Let's talk about Tupperware. Today, well, right now, we are going to talk about something special. Today, this is a segment called, do I have a banner thing here? I have it's called Build Weekly, or Weekly Builds. I don't even know how we call this segment. This is a segment where Jackie and I actually build something, hopefully, in the next 45 minutes. So today, it's all about Tupperware. Now, I know I'm not an American. This is not called Tupperware everywhere. I'm sure people from other countries call this differently. In North America, this is called Tupperware. Why am I talking about Tupperware on Tech Show? These are containers, food containers, right? So we're going to be talking about containers today, and this is just a stupid pun. So we're going to be talking
It works great as a visual too, though.
True.
You're at home, you put the stuff in the container, you bring the
Yes.
container to work, you open the container, and it has what you put in it, what you expect it to have.
It
Except then
is
you get
much.
rid of it, so maybe less so. But
It is much more difficult to carry around soup in your hands than it is in a container. Hence, when you move and migrate applications and stuff, it's much easier to do it so in a container. But okay, today we're going to be covering containers. Why should you use them, and how do we approach containers? And we're going to be also talking about hybrid environments and how do those two things meet. So, yeah. Jackie, let's talk about containers. What are containers? Can you explain to the wonderful audience here what are containers and why should I care about them?
well, a container, very, very actually similar to the Tupperware, is in fact a thing that you put your code into, or your binary, or your setup, and after you've kind of put it into that, you expect it to run somewhere else. So it kind of is meant to help you with the whole works on my machine problem and make sure that the code you write locally actually runs the way you expect it to somewhere else. Yeah.
Tell us what is the works on my machine problem.
When you've done a bunch of configuration that is maybe not documented, or maybe you've even forgot about it because you were like 4 hours down this troubleshooting rabbit hole, and then you fix something, and then it works.
Okay.
And you give your code to somebody else, and you're like, awesome, here we go. We've got this working product. It's going to be fantastic. And they run the code, and they're like, I can't get this to run. And then you're like, well, it works on my machine. That's the works on my machine problem.
Yeah.
it's often, encountered when you're trying to deploy to an environment or review with somebody else. And containers are one of the, I guess, like earlier steps that you can kind of take to help with that problem.
Yeah. Containers are what the cool kids today call Docker, right? So today, most containers are running within the framework of Docker. In the past, that wasn't so. There's a bunch of ways you can run containers in the past. Today, most people run it in Docker. In essence, it's an application level virtualization where you package all of the stuff in a single container. You don't have to worry about it running on your laptop, in production, anywhere. It should all be more or less the same. So, Jackie, when we talk about containers, where do you see the most use case? Where do you see the most use of containers? On what kind of environments? What kind of applications?
That's a good question. I've seen them on both, actually. I've seen them in like hybrid environments. I've seen them on like our colo environments, and I've also seen them, of course, in cloud environments.
Okay.
It's kind of been a bit of everywhere. I've seen them in like, dev environments locally as well. Like, I think that's the whole point, is that it's very portable. So is there like a specific place that you see them more? I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I'm like, am I barking down the wrong tree right now?
But no, like one of the things that first comes to mind when I talk about containers is microservices, right?
Oh yeah. I mean,
so
you can do the big app too.
You can do the big apps, of
recommend
course,
it, but
right? But once you start getting more and more containers, they start falling down because of microservices. Microservices is just a way for you to define little itty bitty parts of your application in separate, isolated environments. They all talk to each other through APIs. The problem is when you have a lot of microservices, a lot of things can go wrong, a lot of things you need to manage, and well, that's not fun, right? So you need some sort of
orchestration.
Exactly. Tell us a bit about orchestration.
Sorry, you were about to say that, and I got excited,
Yes.
and I just blurted it out instead. But yeah, I mean, I always kind of think of it as like IKEA, where like, you go into this big warehouse and it's got all these different boxes of containers, which would be, in this case, our Docker containers. You've got all of the pieces that are going to build your table or your chair, no matter where you pick it up or where you bring it to. And I always see the orchestration as the part that's kind of like the little changes that make it work, right? Like maybe it's a different color, or maybe it's a different size, or maybe, in tech, when it stops, you wanted to try running it again 3 times, but not 100 times, because you don't want to accidentally like bring down your other services. So it's kind of the part that handles it more than just kind of starting and stopping and containing it. It helps it work together, kind of like a conductor with a band and all the different pieces.
There you say an orchestrator?
Yes, maybe even an orchestra.
Yep. So there's a bunch of stuff we do with orchestrators, right? I think it is important. And what kind of orchestrators do people usually use on the cloud? Well, not in the cloud, everywhere.
Well, there's a ton. I think probably the most common one you see is Kubernetes. Back in the day, there was like stuff with like Docker Swarm was a lot more popular as well. You've also got HashiCorp Nomad if you're looking for something that has a couple different varieties to it. That was not my best explanation, but runs on like Windows pretty well, and also runs binaries. It doesn't have to be containerized, so that was what I meant by variety. But yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, I mean, I definitely like I've worked with, I think, believe it's called Mesos at one point. And, if you're part of the AWS ecosystem, you definitely know about ECS and EKS and all of those wonderful ways you can run and orchestrate containers on the cloud. However, we are not here today to teach you how to run an orchestrator. That's a whole different thing. But do check out orchestration for containers. Those are very important if you wish to do things at scale. We want to talk about something else when it comes to containers. You mentioned that packaging up an application in a container gets away with the "it works on my machine" problem, right? So it works somewhere else as well. The beauty about that somewhere else can be literally anywhere. It can be your laptop, it can be the cloud, it can be the server sitting next to you. So this is where we come to talk about hybrid environments and the ability to utilize hybrid cloud infrastructures. And let's be honest here. We from the cloud world tend to think high-mindedly about, of course, everybody's on the cloud 100%. But that's just not the case, right? That's not how it works. Plenty of customers, They say a lot of customers out there are just in a hybrid setup. They have something in the cloud, they have something on premises, they may be in the process of migrating to the cloud, but at certain points in their cloud adventure, they're running a hybrid system. So that hybrid systems are very common. There's a lot of elements that can help you run stuff on premises and in the cloud at the same time. However, one problem that we see when it comes to doing on-premises with the cloud deployments is that usually you split up your environments, right? You have your on-prem and you have your cloud stuff, and they usually do separate things. But why not combine them? Why not have the on-prem stuff do the same things as the cloud stuff? Because they're different. They different hardware, different OSs, different things, different configurations. Access management, all of those fun things are different. So sometimes you just need a way to integrate them all. And containers are a great way to create a good hybrid setup for what you're doing. And that's what we're going to talk about today and potentially show. Let's answer a question here. This is a very vague question, but I love the questions. IA Lancelot asks, is there a way to fix bugs in containers running on production? Yes. You should never fix a bug in a container, right? Don't try to SSH into a container and do changes on there because you're just gonna mess up stuff, right? Soon as that container goes away, all of your changes are gone. What's the proper way to approach this, Jackie?
Ephemeral containers. Just kidding, that's not the proper way. But I think normally I would just pull down a copy of the container and run it with not exactly production credentials because you don't want to, tamper with your prod database or something like that by accident. Yeah. But the idea with containers is usually that you can pull it down and have pretty much the same release, the same version, possibly even the same supporting services.
Yeah.
But yeah.
That's how you do it. You basically.
For production specifically, though, probably some other things like some kind of logs or maybe metrics or observability would probably be another good way to kind of look into it, but not necessarily fix it.
Right. You can troubleshoot in production, just like trying to figure out what's wrong, but don't make the changes in production directly like that because you may spend a lot of time on fixing it and it may be gone in the next scale up or scale down iteration. So just don't do that. Okay, speaking of do that, I need to show off. So let me show you something, chat. I've built a thing. What is that? I collect old computers. I have a plethora of old computers at home, and I happen to have 3 2007 MacBooks running on an Intel Core 2 Duo, right? And I decided, you know what? What do I do with that? I've actually built a cluster, an ECS cluster, an Elastic Container Services cluster at home, right? So this thing right there is running that website right there. So if you go and check out this link here, I'm gonna paste the stuff here. If I go this, boom, that link is gonna take you to a cluster sitting on my desk, not here, but at home. The wonderful thing about that is it's all being managed, orchestrated, and configured, and all of those fun things through the cloud, through ECS, using a service called ECS Anywhere. Right, so if you check out this page, let me actually just zoom in here a bit. If I refresh this thing, you will see that it keeps switching between those MacBooks. As you
That's
can see
100% what I was doing. I was just spamming refresh.
Yeah, spamming refresh. You can see the change. You can see how some of them are very hot. Like you see one of them running at 71 Celsius. I don't have a really good rack at home. It's a small rack, but that's the thing there. And it's running a service called ECS Anywhere. So it's basically, you can see here that they're being managed by ECS as these external instances. And when you create services, which are basically just a way of defining a microservice to run on specific containers, I'm actually executing a specific amount of tasks on these containers. So basically my entire application, instead of running in the cloud, is running, well, in my house. Now, would you do this in production? Of course you wouldn't, right? You wouldn't
Never.
hook up old MacBooks for a
Never
production
seen that in
system.
production.
You just wait, Jackie. But
No, I actually have.
you have? Okay.
Yeah.
I
You know
did
the
use
laptop with the sticky note that says absolutely do not close this ever?
Oh my God. Okay. So I do
Yeah.
I do have a fix for that. These MacBooks are all closed and they still work, but you have to do a Linux configuration change for them not to shut off. So yeah, I mean, in essence, this is just a silly example of what you can do, but you should not do it with MacBooks. Imagine these were just spare servers sitting in a data center, and I wanted to add them to a cluster of container servers, so I can run my containers both on the cloud and on premises. And as Cobus says, it's a Mac Blade server cluster. The other blades are here. So yeah, if you ever deployed Blade servers, you know what we're talking about. Okay, so the goal of today is going to be to, number one, show you how this is configured, and also take this thing here. Not sure how. Let me actually move this thing. Take this thing here. As you can see, it's a little Linux server. Let me move myself so it's going to be a bit bigger. It's a little Linux server. It's an Intel NUC. It's running a 3rd generation Intel i5 CPU, and it's currently running Debian on it. And the goal is to add this boy, which is sitting on the desk next to me, add it to that cluster. So that's the plan today, Jackie.
To be clear, you are not at your house right now, because I think
I'm not.
in a previous stream somebody went, "Wait, that isn't Darko's back room." So
Nope. I'm currently in the AWS office. This is the wonderful studio we built here. So yes, I like to go to a place to do a stream. Okay, so
how do we get started?
how do we get started? First of all, let me actually flip back to the screen sharing here. I configured all of this. I'll have all the code in a GitHub repository, and I'll share it all with you. As Ricardo says, may the demo goddess be kind and gentle with you. I have not tried this demo. I have not tested it out.
Bold
So
move.
it's a very bold move. I know this works at home. I have no idea if it will work from here, but we're going to try our best.
And you know, if
So-
it doesn't, it's fine. We're learning live together. So
Exactly. So the goal of it is going to be to add this little NUC to that cluster. This entire cluster is actually configured through CDK, through the Cloud Development Kit. So let me actually show it to you here. So I have a repository here of, let me open it up. Basically, I have a CDK code that provisions everything except the on-premises instances, right? So basically it creates an ECS cluster. It creates all the things that I need for the ECS cluster. It also creates a specific Fargate task, which I'm going to talk about in a second. It sets up the services, it sets up certificates, listeners, load balancers. In essence, this sets it up so that when you go to that webpage, maccluster.rob12.net, it hits a load balancer in the cloud. So it hits a load balancer on AWS in the US West 2 region, and that load balancer, through this container service, routes the traffic back to my home into this chunky boy there. And it's all being configured through this thing. And number one, Jackie, I can't take the credit for this. I haven't made this. I've modified it, I adopted it, but it was all built by our good colleague and friend Nathan Peck, and we're actually going to be sharing the link to his blog post now. Nathan Peck, here it is. I have it ready. So if you want to read more about how Nathan did the same thing with Raspberry Pis, check it out there. But back to this. So basically, CDK is configuring all of this thing here. What happened? Where is my code? There There we go. CDK is configuring all of it here, basically defining the containers, the task definitions, the services, the cluster, all of these things, so it provisions it. Once this has been created, you are ready to start adding your external instances. So this is what I'm going to be doing here. This now, I am currently, let me actually show it to you. I'm currently running on my workstation, my laptop, right? I'm going to SSH into this little NUC next to me. So it's 192.168, what is the IP? 202.13. That's not it. That's a horrible IP address. There we go. And add the password. Boom. It's running on this little thing here, if you can see it. I have a little monitor as well. So this is the little NUC running next to me, just in case. So it is currently running. If I do neofetch, it should show that it's running Debian Linux. It is configured. The only thing that's running on here is I do have Docker set up, but I set it up for a different reason. So imagine this was a completely vanilla system. Nothing configured, nothing running here, just your plain old system, just barely installed. If you look at the processes, it's only using a 500 megs of RAM, nothing really running on this thing. So Jackie, let me ask you a question. How do you configure Linux servers? What tools do you use to configure Linux servers? What's the first thing that comes to mind?
Oh, geez. I mean, configuration management tools usually like Ansible, or back in the earlier days of my career, SaltStack. So depends on where it is. If it's a VM, Packer.
Let's talk about come on, there you go. Let's talk about Ansible. I actually have an Ansible configuration here. So what I'm doing here, instead of configuring it manually by installing packages, sudo apt get this and sudo apt get that, and install Docker and create users, I'm actually using an Ansible script to configure all of those things. So the goal of today is that I'm gonna be using this Ansible script to configure this little thing here, and hopefully it works. The thing that this Ansible script does, it installs all of the Docker requirements, it installs a bunch of things, and it installs Docker per se. It configures some stuff for the laptop. This is the whole thing I told you about, the lid closing and not. It installs the Amazon SSM agent, which is the systems manager agent. It enables the service, and also it installs ECS Anywhere. So once I go and run this Ansible script against this server right here, it should configure all of it, and hopefully, it should show up as an ECS instance. But let's just step back for a second here. Let's say, I don't know, you don't want to use Ansible. You just want to have a server and you want to register it. You want to add it to the list of all of your container servers, right? How do you do that? The beautiful thing about this is there's a button here that says register external instances. It will give you say a bunch of configuration here, how long the activation key is valid for, and how many instances can you attach to it, and what kind of an instance role you want to add to this thing. So let's say I want to say activation is 5 days long, and I want to add up to 10 instances with this activation, and I want to use a specific IAM role here called ECS Anywhere. This will give me a shell command I can run on my server, and it will register this thing here. It will also give me some secret keys and activation IDs, yada, 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 which I'm going to be using. Hence, I need to hide my screen. So Jackie, while I do that, I'm going to do this.
Yes.
We need to entertain our audience while I'm doing that. So
I feel like this is a good time too, if audience has any,
yes,
I don't know, configuration management tools that they're using, because I did see somebody say the admin guide tool, and I might have laughed while you were explaining something else. But if there's any other responses that you have, or questions for us, really, just keep putting them in chat. We're going to keep seeing them and responding. And in the meantime, as we're preparing our secrets and Darko container wizarding our magic.
Yeah, Darko's trying to figure out how this thing works. So what I'm doing right now is I'm actually copying the little secret keys and access keys and all the things that this command gives me. I'm copying them into a little command I'm going to be running, because I'm going to be passing this command over to Ansible. I'm passing it as a variable to my Ansible configuration, and then that Ansible configuration will basically hopefully run this thing properly on my servers, on my server here in this case. Almost there. I just need to copy the activation code.
And for our viewers who've come to a couple episodes too, you might notice that our little box in the corner of the studio changes based on what we're talking about. So today we've got a little Docker with containers, and before we had a little creeper from Minecraft.
Yes, yes, yes. So Jackie, can you tell the people, I see a question from Nothing is Impossible. What are we doing today?
Today we're looking at containers, and we're going to be seeing if we can do ECS anywhere with adding a little, I think you said, is it a NUC?
A NUC, an Intel
like
NUC.
Googling these on the side, like I'm buying 5. But
these things, they're expensive. They're not, so, don't buy them.
don't discourage my dreams. Anyway, so we're going to be connecting a little Linux machine from the AWS studio to Darko's cluster that is running in his house, which is not the studio. That is old. Yes, there we go. Perfect. That's what we're doing today.
Indeed. Okay, so I think if I would be refreshing this should work. Oh, I don't want to reload. Yeah, good. So I'm going to hide my screen again because I need to go and run an Ansible command. The reason I'm going to hide my screen again is because this Ansible command will include the secret keys I'm not going to share with all of you, unfortunately. But I'm going to show you one thing before doing that. So if I
Secrets
go to Mac,
don't make friends.
I know, but still. So one of the things about Ansible is you need to define its hosts. So I have a hosts file here, which defines just the IP addresses of the hosts I want to connect Ansible to connect to. In this case, these are the IP addresses of my containers at home. Because I cannot access them from here, I'm just going to do 192.168. What is the IP address? 202.113, right? So this IP address is the IP address of this little box sitting next to me. If I do this and save it, I can use that file later on to just basically connect to those hosts using Ansible. Okay, time to hide my screen for a second while I go and paste the command. So, one moment. Where is my command? I'm actually gonna see if I can. No, there's a bunch of code here. I can't show you. So I'm gonna hit enter on this command, and hopefully it all goes good. So, chat, pray to the demo goddess, please. Oh no!
I am hoping for you.
It didn't work.
Oh no!
It's unreachable. Why is it unreachable? Tested wash. 1 second. Did I make a boo boo? No. IP address.
You know what? Let's talk through what's happening.
Yeah.
I think that'll be helpful anyway. So we're trying to deploy it, trying to reach it, right? And we can't reach it. So how would you go about trying to troubleshoot that? Like, I know you're doing that right now, but what advice would you have for the audience?
Okay. I'm gonna show this to the audience, but I need to zoom in so I can hide all the things I don't want to show. I don't want to show the activation code. Okay, I think this should work. Okay, here's the problem. Share, boom. Not that. Please go back. I am wrangling my screens here. Is it not visible? It's not visible. Okay. Here's the issue. I ran Ansible playbook. Basically, I wanted to run Ansible against this little host that says unreachable, failed to connect to host, permission denied. So the problem is not the IP address. The problem is permissions. The problem is I have not authorized this laptop to connect to Ansible. The way I do that is the following. Let me open up another thing here. So I'm actually gonna do, I can SSH as Ansible at 192.168.202.13. I can do Ansible, but Ansible. but it asks me for a password. The Ansible user does not have the password here. I've removed the password for the Ansible user. So what I need to do the following. I need to connect to the system, which I am right now. Then I need to do sudo user mod -u Ansible. I think that's it. User Ansible doesn't exist. Okay, sudo user mod. I need to add the user Ansible to the system. So let me find the exact command I was running to add the user. I have it here.
Justin Garrison in chat says, "Sorry, I'm late. I heard something about containers?" ?
Yes,
Very timely.
yes, very timely. So I'm adding a Ansible user here, right? I'm gonna add the password for the Ansible user. Right, there we go. And now, because there's an Ansible user here, I can connect to it using the proper password. I should be able to connect. Beautiful, excellent. But I'm actually going to do the following. SSH copy ID. I'm copying the ID, the access key from my laptop here to that server so I can do SSH without passwords. So Ansible at 192.168.202.13. Boom. Yes. Awesome. So if I do Ansible, SSH Ansible at this IP address now, it should log me in without a password. Beautiful. That's what we need. Because the beauty about Ansible is that it does all of the configuration through SSH. So no agent at the other side needed. Let's check it out now. So if I go here, and if I run this command again, which I have to hide my screen again. I'm sorry, friends. I don't want to hide secrets from all of you, but I have to sometimes.
I also want my cluster to stay up and running.
Exactly. Okay, missing sudo password. I'm sorry. Oh, yes, I remember now. What's the problem? So let's troubleshoot again. It says it's missing a sudo password. Why? Because I don't have sudo configured on the system to accept the Ansible user. So I need to go and edit sudo vim etc sudoers. This is the sudoers file. This is basically defining who can run sudo. And I just need to do the following. I need to do, did I do this? I need to do Ansible all equal all, I think like that. And then no password all. I do believe this is the syntax. Basically, I'm setting up sudo here that Ansible user can run sudo without entering its password. But I need to verify. I have an example here. Sudo Ansible all, no password all. Oh my God, I was correct.
I'm impressed.
I'm impressed myself as well. So not that. Oop, there we go. Boom. All right. So if I run this thing again, I'm not running vsudo. I know I'm sorry to all my sysadmin folks. I'm not running vsudo because vsudo is using nano, and I don't like nano. Nothing wrong with nano, but I just don't like it. Okay, running again. Okay, connected. I can share my screen again. Okay, it's running. Now you can see Ansible actually installing stuff here. So it's installing all the Docker requirements. A lot of stuff is happening on this server right now. It's running apt, it's failing. Okay. That was anticlimactic. Let's see.
Yeah, we were just like, here we go. We're making great progress, and we're mad.
To see, the list could not be read. Share connection closed. Trace. It couldn't add the repository. Conflicting value. Okay. So I know why there's a conflicting value here. The reason there is a conflicting value here is because I've already installed Docker here manually. So that's the whole reason. And that I'm most likely the problem here is that when it tried to add the repository, the Docker repository to the sources list, it just failed. So that's the whole thing. Okay. We can work around that. Setup YAML. Let's see. We can. Do we remove the thing? I think we can just completely ignore this thing. I'm gonna remove it right now for the time being, because I just don't want to do anything to this like that. And hiding the screen. I see Justin is commenting sudo update alternatives config editor. Yes, I can do that. I know. It's just a brand new system. I did not update my alternatives. I did not set to my editor and all that stuff. So I just like to live on the edge. I edit the sudoers file manually. Okay, another failure. Let me bring it back. I think it's in the same line. We may have broke the server.
Oh no.
No, yes. Changed. Conflicting values for options signed by regarding source Docker bullseye. So the keyring issue is the issue here. So the problem is the list of sources could not be read. That means if I would go here and I would do sudo apt update, I think it would fail, right? There we go. I need to conflicting value set for option signed by regarding. So this file is a problem. So if I rm rf sudo like that. Okay, going back to this thing, and I'm gonna be like that. So DNNP, the way you can set no log, the problem is I'm passing my variables within the command line. That's the whole reason. I'm passing Ansible variables within the command line, and that's the reason I'm not showing it. I could potentially use a variable file, but I'm just using it like this because I'm a lazy engineer. So, okay, it's still the same issue. Let me go and try to fix this thing here. Sudo apt update. Conflicting value set for options signed by regarding to all right. Let me set up my YAML thing. Interesting. I need to fix this. There we go. I've broken the stuff. The list of sources could not be found. You know what? Let's look at good old Google. Okay, I see it. So let's add a Docker GPG Debian. Okay, so the problem that happened here is that I have sudo apt update. Would this work? Nope, it's not it. Apt key is deprecated. No, I've broken it. Have I broken it? Sources list. Okay, the problem is we screwed something up here on the Debian side. I can't install packages now, and I'm trying to troubleshoot this really fast because we have 10 minutes left, Jackie. So
This is reminding me like very strongly of earlier in my career when I was first learning Ansible, well, SaltStack actually, and I accidentally stripped sudo out of every single machine in my cluster and was sitting there like, what have I done? And I went to my mentor at the time and was like, can I fix this? And he was like, no, you burn it and you start over. And I was like, oh no. So mine was obviously much more damaging. Like I think we're in a good spot still, but it is it's still a lesson about like configuration management and kind of, you know.
Yep. I fully agree. So let me sudo apt update again. Ls etc apt. I'm trying to sources list the. Okay, I think I found the culprit. So I have a thing here. So what I'm gonna do I'm gonna be removing the sources list for Docker. Sudo rm etc apt sources list .d and then docker.list and like that. Okay. Sudo apt update. Would this work? Okay. We're getting somewhere, Jackie. We're getting somewhere.
Progress, yay.
Progress, yay. So, okay, now I am going to do the following. I'm going to have to hide my screen again. Configuration, yeah, there you go, like that. Boom, boom, boom. I'm going to do this. Save. run this again, and let's see if it works. App seems to be running. Okay. So far, so good.
We're hoping.
Okay,
We're hoping.
So it installed Docker. It's installing the Systems Manager package. It's basically configuring ECS right now. And let's see what's gonna happen. So now it runs basically a shell script. It's an ECS Anywhere configuration shell script, which makes sure that you have Systems Manager installed. It makes sure you have Docker installed. It installs the ECS agent. It does all of those things. And once that is done, hopefully, this instance will show up in the containers we have here. So it's doing some additional things and doing like node exporter. Those things are not mandatory. However, I need to do a manual change because I just remembered I do not have one thing here. Sudo vim etc ECS. There's a config file here. Basically, it's an ECS cluster configuration file. The reason I need to add one more thing, I need to add one bit of configuration here, and it has to do with tags. So ECS tags v4 metadata. I don't really know what I'm looking for, but it's a configuration. Yeah, it's a metadata endpoint, which I need to basically add the following thing. Enabling the metadata endpoint. There is a thing I need to do in the configuration file somewhere. Can I find the thing?
We need like Dennis's like YouTube tense music background
Yes.
for this.
Yes. I don't know what the thing is, but I know how to find out. So I need basically the configuration item here in the ECS container agent. I don't remember the exact configuration thing I need, but because I already have things on the cloud, I can basically connect to an ECS instance like this. Connect through the SSH because the wonders of Systems Manager, and just do cat etc ECS ecs.config and enable ECS container metadata. That's the thing I wanted to add. There we go. Boom. All right. So the only thing that this is doing, it's basically enabling the ECS metadata. I'm actually going to reboot this system just in case. It's restarting now. It's fascinating because it's sitting right next to me, so it's beautiful. So while this is rebooting, just a summary on what we have done here. So one of the things I've done, hopefully, is I'm setting up this little NUC next to me, the Intel NUC, as part of the container cluster that's running in my home. Basically, this thing. Hopefully, in a couple of minutes, once this is all up and running, we should be able to see this instance connected to ECS, showing all of the things there. So let's give it a go. We have 3 instances here. Refresh it. Boom, we have a 4th instance, Jackie. It's connected. It is
Yes.
connected. Now, let's just have a look here. So I do see I have another stack here, another thing running here. That's okay, good. I want to see if my demo application will launch, because I need to update my CDK code here, because I want to make sure I can have the sufficient amount of services. So it's demo app. What is the count I have here? Desired count, I'm going to set it to 4. That means I'm going to run the 4 instances of this specific service. CDK deploy, and let's see if this works. That's a thing, right? Let's see if this works. Is a very common thing I say on live streams. Okay, so the instance is connected. That's good, and let's just have a look if we have stuff running on it. So SSH. This thing, I guess. Okay. HTOP, Docker, PS, Sudo Docker PS. Okay, I have Grafana. So these are things I've installed separately. These have nothing to do with the stuff. But hopefully, if I do this, we should be able to see the ECS agent is running. That's beautiful.
Yeah, we do.
That's beautiful. And in a couple of seconds, we should also be able to see, once this thing deploys, we should hopefully see an application running on it as well. So back to here, we will see that the desired count will be 4. Currently, we have only 3 tasks running, but 1 is pending. Let's see, will it run or will it fail? I have a feeling that it's going to fail, but you never know. You may prove me wrong, Jackie.
We may yet make it.
There
has been a whole side conversation in chat about how Born always pulls through, and this is more tense than that.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Doesn't need Sudo. He's always root.
So this is still in the amount of 3. Okay, it keeps on failing. So it has failed. It has failed for some reason. Let's see why it has failed. Can't read type property undefined. I know why. So one of the things I'm using on this thing is I'm actually tagging my ECS instances with a specific thing. So if I go here and go to tags, I need to add a device tag like this. So I'm going to go back to my cluster and find, I guess, is this one? Is it this one? Yes, this one. I'm going to add a tag called device. I'm going to call it Intel NUC. So the problem here is if I save this thing and I go back to the cluster and tasks, and services and tasks, I see that all of them are running now. Yes, good. Okay, final test of the day before we wrap it up. Refresh. Come on, give me the other thing. Come on. Does this not work? Wow. Did we break it completely?
It's changing when I refresh it. Yeah.
Okay, so for me it's not changing for some reason. I get only Mac cluster 02. Let me try this. Private window. Boom, boom. For some reason I only get Mac cluster 02. But if you refresh it, you should potentially get these things. Do you get different ones?
It stopped now. It was doing when I was refreshing the first 3. It was still cycling, and now it's just only yeah. That's okay.
But that's okay. Unfortunately, we have to end it right now because we have streams upcoming. In any case, thank you all so much for joining us. I am going to be sharing a link to my GitHub page. So it's not currently open, like that. So the uptime is for one of the Macs back home. The uptime for this one should be a lot shorter because there's 4 systems in the cluster right now. I'm going to be sharing the code on this GitHub repo. It's there, but I'm actually going to, it's currently set to private. Let me make it public. How do I make it public? Whoa, it's been a long time since I made this public. Is it visibility? Change visibility? Make public.
Oh, it is public.
It is public? No.
Yeah. This repository is currently public.
Oh, beautiful. Okay, so that's the repository. You can find out the stuff there. You have all the code, and thank you all so much for being part of this live stream. It's been a pleasure. And keep following us on Twitter. Keep following us on the social medias, and we hopefully will get this thing up and running. My goal of today is going to be to have all of the instances dialing in. So, Jackie,
editing magic will cut it in. But yes, thank you so much for joining us today, and we can't wait to see you again next week.
Thank you so much, Brooke. The show notes are dev2/AWS. You can find the show notes for last week's, and the show notes for this show will be coming up soon as well.
Hey there! Thanks for checking out this video. Remember to give it a like and share with your community. Then hit subscribe and the bell for all the latest content that will help you build on AWS.